Now throw your hands in the air and wave them like you just don't care. And if you like Cyber Max spitting all them straight facts, everybody up in here say, oh yeah.
Oh yayer?
There you go. Ash, I was hoping you'd take the bait on that one. By the way, those are lyrics from a song.
I'm jamming out in my chair here now.
That's from a song called Atlians by Outkast. So they made a song about us even like 20 years ago. Welcome back to Maximum News, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry, I've had Outkast stuck in my head all day. I had to make you share in my misery. Let's just get right into the news. We're going to start things off on a somber note, unfortunately, but I feel the need to pay tribute to this guy because he was a large part of my childhood. The creator of Yu-Gi-Oh!, the card game, the manga, the anime series. He didn't directly maybe create the anime series, but he was definitely responsible for the manga and the continuation of the universe afterwards into the card game. His name is Kazuki Takahashi. Unfortunately, this past week, he passed away at the age of 60 due to an apparent snorkeling accident. I won't discuss the details of how he was discovered because, unfortunately, they are pretty morbid. But I felt the need to bring him up. Now, some people might say, why talk about Yu-Gi-Oh! Because it's a card game. It's not a video game. You guys talk about video games. Well, there are Yu-Gi-Oh! Video games, so I guess it kind of counts. I mean, like, there's Master Duel out right now, which is free, which you should check out, by the way. It's not like a predatory Konami game, surprisingly. And actually, me and my girlfriend have been playing it quite a bit, getting back into Yu-Gi-Oh! And I gotta say, there's a certain brilliance to the way that Yu-Gi-Oh's universe is set up. I had no idea back when I was playing it as a kid just how sophisticated the lore and the world of Yu-Gi-Oh was constructed, but it's really, really unique, and it's something that I think even adults can appreciate. It has a similar level of sophistication as something like Magic the Gathering, and I would say even more than the Pokemon trading card game. Even, you know, the Pokemon trading card game is really fun. But yeah, it's really sad. I thank you, Mr. Takahashi-san, for, you know, all those wonderful times when I was preteen and a teenager. You know, I had like that thing they held on your arm that would hold the cards. That's from the anime. That's how much of a fan I was. And I'm becoming an even deeper fan now as an adult. And you can only really say that about a few pieces of entertainment. And Yu-Gi-Oh! Was special enough to compel that level of investment from me at all different periods of my life. Syb, Ash, did you ever play Yu-Gi-Oh? Like, did you ever play any of the video games or the card game?
I was never really into Yu-Gi-Oh, but I mean, I empathize with you know, it's always sad when a talented creator passes, and always makes me think about the capacity that we have as human beings have for creation, something that sets us apart from animals, and also reminds me to just, you know, use what you have while you have it. You never know how much time you've got, so make the most of the time that you're here, you know.
And he really did.
Show love to people, and do what you know. Don't just, if you can at all avoid it, don't just slave away at a job you hate and assume you'll do something you love later. I mean, hopefully most of us will get that later, but sometimes we don't. So, you know,
yeah.
Sorry to make this a downer, but you know, 60 is, in my opinion, that's pretty young these days to go. And an accident like that's really sad.
Yeah,
so it's
but at least we can say that he did more in his lifetime than most people would. He made a global gaming phenomenon that people religiously play even in this part of the world, where we have
impressive
languages and different cultures. Syb, what about you? Did you ever play Yu-Gi-Oh?
Not Yu-Gi-Oh itself, but a lot of games that were inspired of it.
Okay.
The general like I mentioned this a lot. Like I have to click with the art, the concept, the story. Otherwise, I just kind of like I flounder, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but no, he influenced a large amount of developers and other games that have worked off of stuff. There's a game that I played through quite a fair bit just about a month and a half ago, and it was fairly heavily inspired by. With certain rules and card types and the way that it goes, and it was just a fun indie project from the dev. But no, it runs deep, and it's like that kind of stuff that where somebody comes in and they revolutionize the genre, or they make it better, or they make it bigger. Yeah. All of those things are good. You know, sometimes people can argue with whether bigger is better or not. sometimes bigger just tends to hurt things. However, in this case, we can probably clearly say that it actually literally does help. So, you know, yeah. So
over 10,000 cards.
Yeah, yeah. And it's that's one of the other reasons why I don't play a lot of card games, because some of them, like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Hearthstone and a bunch of these other ones, are like, some of the collections have thousands of cards, and it's like, I can't memorize all that stuff. I mean, like, it's bad enough that I'll go into, like, you know, like some game and I'll, you know, it's PvP, and I'll memorize all of the abilities that all of the characters that all of the classes have. And then I rotate through that, you know, I'm like, okay, so and so used his thing. Now he's got, like, you know, that's on a 10-second cooldown, you know, and trying to remember all that, or trying to remember all that when you got a raid group of 40 people, and remembering exactly what every other person in the 39 person raid group has. Mm-hmm. Man, that was the good stuff back then. So I don't know, maybe I never just got into the right one.
Right. You have to get into something like that at the right time in your life with the right level of enthusiasm, because otherwise it feels like you are balancing like 50 different spinning plates as you're playing the game. But if you get to the point where you really do understand everything that's going on, it can be quite rewarding. And that's something that I've only recently started to realize about card games, and it's making me want to get into more of them. But, you know, as me and Saib always say to each other so often, there's only so many hours in the day. But anyways, the question is for you guys. Did you grow up playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Like I did? Did you enjoy the anime? Do you still enjoy the anime? I don't even know if it's any good anymore. It's been a while since I've seen it. And do you still play the card game? Let us know in the comment section below. Let us know how Yu-Gi-Oh! Impacted your life. I apologize, by the way, about the train. It'll stop honking in like 5 seconds.
That's funny. Well, I might as well throw this in because it's quick and it's short, and I was watching the news when it came out live. Also want to, like, anybody, we do have a lot of Asian listeners, and I also want to throw out that, you know, I was reeling with the news this morning when I saw it, and I saw it about when it came out live. I was up at that time, and I was just watching news feeds, and it popped up 1 minute ago, you know, Shinzo Abe was assassinated.
Right.
And, like, I knew right away from the type of weapon, I'm like, I don't think he's going to survive that. And that sucks, you know, because that's not, it's never good to assassinate, you know, former government leaders. When if a government leader has stepped down after, you know, a successful run, it's like, you know, it's unless they're caught, you know, butchering people, it's usually good to just let them be, right? But no, not what happened here. So hearts go out to that. I tweeted about that last night.
Of course.
Yeah. But no, that's a double punch for Japan right now, and that kind of sucks.
Yeah. I mean, like, whatever your politics are, the fact of the matter is that there were a lot of people that followed him and supported him, and that's going to affect those that did. So there's a great deal of...
It's also that he stepped down too, right?
Yeah,
like, it's like he had health reasons, but it's like any politician who, like, you know, bows out of the limelight, you know, sure, they can, like, be back and do stuff. I can't get the reasoning behind that. So it's
one headline I saw said, or I saw something that said he was giving a campaign speech.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
but he was
running for
campaigning.
re-election.
No, he was campaigning for somebody else.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So one of his close friends in his former party, he came out to do a short speech because he was having severe health problems, and so he wasn't really able to get out there and talk about it. And he was a big proponent of you know, making Japan wake up and start to get a little bit more involved with things and yeah, I don't think there's anything directly wrong with that. I think getting more involved is always better.
Yeah, I mean, there's to a certain degree, showing pride in your country is okay. You know, just as long as you don't, you know, take it to the point where it's like Oscar Wilde said, patriotism is the virtue of the vicious. There's a good way of going about it, and I guess for the little bit that I know about him, that's what he did. Okay. Let's move on to this next story. This is obviously, aside from, you know, the death of the beloved creator of Yu-Gi-Oh!, this is probably the biggest story of the week. I can't believe it, Side. It's actually happening. Although it's not the Ubisoft game that I wish was still officially happening, which is Beyond Good and Evil 2. Although there was like rumors, I think, on Twitter today that I saw something about, they're looking to showcase it, or no, do like external playtesting on it soon, something like that. But anyways, it's not that. It's Skull and Bones. I thought I was going to say dead and buried in the water, but I would have kicked myself. Well, I guess I already made the pun, so you can kick me later. Skull and Bones is back, guys. It sort of just popped up on my newsfeed saying, they're doing a stream showcasing the gameplay. Like, really? Just like that? Just out of nowhere? You're going to drop like this game that's been gone, like in the mists of the sea, like the Black Pearl from Pirates of the Caribbean, and then it just shows up. Okay, I watched a trailer for it, and I don't really know what to make of it. Like, was this what we were expecting? When I heard about Skull and Bones, like we originally heard that, well, Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, it was going to be sort of a Skull and Bones is going to sort of be like a spin-off of that, where it's just naval combat all the time. And then there was a whole bunch of different changes behind the scenes. So I was expecting something like that, kind of like Assassin's Creed. But no, it seems like it's all naval combat all the time. You don't really ever get out of your boat except in the hub world. Does that seem interesting to... Well, I'm going to ask Saib first, because I think he has most of the opinions on this, and then I'll go over to you, Ash.
On the original Xbox, there was a ship combat game, tall ship combat game. And I just don't get it. I just really don't get how after a decade they basically made that game with a little bit better graphics. I don't
yeah.
I don't get how they've like, and this is part of the thing, is like, I don't know how to react to this. This game has taken literally forever, and they give you basically a toolkit which isn't as advanced as the previous game that this game was supposed to be based off of.
Or Sea of Thieves, which is the current pirate game alternative that people have.
And they're like, just it, and it's like, we're giving you tons of collectibles and customizations for your captain, crew, and ship. And I'm like, all right, how much you want to bet in 6 months after release there's gonna be like this, like, tons of microtransactions that just appear out of nowhere, where you get all these really cool stuff, and it comes at a cost of, doing a lot more, and like, as far as like interacting with that microtransaction system.
Well, it's Ubisoft. Of course, that's what they're going to do.
Yeah. And I mean, I can't.
Let's put this into perspective, because I remember the last time we talked about this, we talked about how much money Ubisoft reportedly spent on this game. Do you remember what that number was? I know what it was. You want to take a guess?
It was a lot. Wasn't it like 200 some odd million?
Less than that, but it's still a significant amount. It's 120 million. That's the rumor. But still, 120 million for this? Really?
It looks like actual garbage. I mean, I'm sorry to say it, but it, like, in comparison to what this game was supposed to be based off of, and then current stuff that you can play today, looking at Sea of Thieves and running a comparison, this just, I mean, you can't walk, as far as I know, you can't walk around on the deck of your ship. Maybe I missed that.
Yeah, it wasn't clear.
It seems that you're just at the helm, which is, again, a little weird because the captains were very rarely at the helm. Like, they were near the helm. They were usually in the office behind the helm, or the room behind the helm. But it's just so weird. So yeah.
I mean, like, it doesn't seem awful. I mean, like, if this is what you're gonna do, it seems like they have like all the basic elements. Like, you get resources, you gotta make sure your crew's happy. You pick and choose your battles.
Resources by floating up to an island,
yeah,
and getting on a cannon and shooting the cannon
at trees. Okay, true. Yeah,
which
that was
is,
lame.
I gotta say, the most interesting concept for tree cutting I have ever seen.
I mean, it works, but I mean, wouldn't it just be better and more like organizational, just to go up there and use your axe like a pleb? Yeah. It does have like those basic elements, so at least I guess it's competent in that regard. But even then, like you just said, it's like, why can't you just get off your ship and go onto the island? When I think about my ideal type of pirate game, I would think of Sea of Thieves, and I haven't played it. That's just because I haven't had time to play it, but I've heard it's wonderful, and I really want to. But I want to play that, and Skull and Bones doesn't seem to be evolving on top of what seems to be the key pirate game that everybody wants to go and play right now.
I mean, just taking features by features and comparing them to the game this thing was based off of like a decade ago, doesn't really seem that they've made much progress.
Yeah.
Definitely not in comparison to that, because I mean, in that game you could explore islands and you could fight and you had a story and a political system and things going on, but now you don't have any of that.
Yeah. Why wouldn't I just go back and play AC4, which I never did, by the way. I never got into the Assassin's Creed franchise. I only played like the first hour of 2 and a whole bunch of 1 way back in the day, but I don't remember anything about it. I think I would much rather go back and play Black Flag just because of all the wonderful things people have said about it before I go and play this. Ash, did you happen to see the gameplay? Do you have anything to add to that?
I've actually been. I got an ad. It was kind of funny. I was trying to watch a different trailer earlier this morning, and then the ad for Sea of Thieves, or not, got Sea of Thieves on the brain now. The ad for Skull and Bones started playing, and I thought it was the video that I was the other game trailer that I was trying to watch, and I got really confused for a moment. But anyway, so I did see the CG trailer they put out. And then I was like, wow, if that's the graphics for the actual game, that's pretty impressive. It's not. So the graphics look, they're not terrible, but they do look.
They look like early like Xbox One, PS4 era graphics.
Well, I mean, higher poly counts than that. I mean, Xbox One, right?
Yeah.
No, sorry. I thought you meant like the first Xbox. I was like,
no.
Not going back that far. But right, Xbox One. So they're good. They're not top notch, but they're decent. But I agree with the whole concept of just being on your ship, not being able to get off the ship and explore any of the islands. I've been scrolling through the gameplay as you guys have been talking here. Just the gameplay video that got put out, and you're right. Like, you can get out of the ship, walk around in third person, as your character in this hub area. But everything else, to like conquer an island or raid an island, you just like float up to it, start shooting at the base, at the fortresses or whatever that's there, and then other ships come out that you can fight, and you're kind of in a first person perspective again. Yeah, right behind the helm of the ship. And I guess you command your guys to do stuff, but it's kind of it's an interesting concept to have the whole ship kind of active and alive, and be operating like, I guess, a seafaring vessel of that era would operate, with all the people running around having to do all the different things. But no, this doesn't look interesting to me in the slightest. If I can't get off the boat and explore the islands, it's no thanks. I don't see why I'd be interested in that.
Yeah. I guess
really good if the ship combat, really good, ship combat is cool, but there's other games that do that. And like Sea of Thieves was full on exploration game, and like we played it back in the early days of Sea of Thieves. I haven't even played it since it got good. I played it back in when it first came out, and it was still fun. There was very little content. They've added lots and lots more content and features and things now, and I've heard it's gotten amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But even that, the original Sea of Thieves that I played, looks more interesting than this, because you could go to an island and just look around and find stuff, and the skeletons would attack you and whatever, or you could, and it was the best with friends, obviously, and you'd have the different people manning the different positions on the boat, but yeah, this doesn't look interesting.
Yeah, and somehow Ubisoft, with all their Ubisoft money that they get from AC, they somehow couldn't make their own version of that or update on that formula,
With all of that money, yeah. That you can't even get off your ship and fight people on the beaches or go exploring or dig up, actually bury a treasure somewhere. I mean, what's that's you go watch the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. They're not on the boat all the time.
Right.
They're off doing stuff.
Well, I mean, and as far as buried treasure go, we had another game yesterday showcase an update, and they have added so many buried treasures to the game.
What game?
And you find them through different ways. Baldur's Gate 3.
Oh, right. Well, we are going to talk about Baldur's Gate 3. I just realized, looking at my list, that we don't really have the best. Like 5 out of the 6 stories that we have aren't actually very positive. But we're going to end on Baldur's Gate 3 because that is something that is pretty positive, something that both Ash and Cyber are into. But yeah, we'll get to that at the end. Let's move on, because it's Ubisoft. Unless it's Beyond Good and Evil 2, I don't really care. And even then, it's just how are they going to mess that up? Moving on to other big companies that have been messing up a lot lately. Take-Two. Guess what, Side? They've been out trying to take down people's modding tools again. Check this out. So, Take-Two sent...
Oh, shit. Here we go again.
Oh, shit. Here we go again. Yes, exactly. That was literally the picture on this article that I read. So, a DMCA was sent by Take-Two to a modder named Luke Ross, who has been making VR mods for GTA 5, Red Dead Redemption 2, and the Mafia trilogy, which sounds awesome, by the way. I would love to play those games in VR, but apparently Take-Two has a problem with that. So reading from this article, it says, the modder was surprised because, according to him, quote, none of my modifications are built using software belonging to Take-Two Interactive Software, Inc., and the modifications are not intended to replace their games, nor are they a means of exploiting Take-Two Interactive Software Incorporated, very legal speak, proprietary IP or assets. And what's interesting is that you would think that, well, they're just trying to protect their IP. They're trying to make sure that, this kid is either not making money off of it or that their ability to make money off of their IP is hindered. But it's interesting because they filed it as a copyright rather than a licensing issue, which means, for those who aren't read up on legalese, it means that Take-Two isn't filing this for anything to do with money. So it's, I don't know. It just seems like Take-Two is just throwing these DMCAs out like Onision. Kudos if you get that reference. It's too bad because this guy, he has been making a lot of VR mods. I kind of want to subscribe to his Patreon so I can check them out. He's making them for Horizon Zero Dawn, which makes me want to get it for the PC. And even get a VR headset, which I don't have one. Dark Souls Remastered. Not sure how that would work. Cyberpunk 2077, which way back in the day, I remember you and I were talking about how VR would work in that game. And I still think it would look amazing to have VR for Cyberpunk 2077, especially now with all the patches. And Elden Ring. That's one thing. There is another thing that we're going to get into, but I figured I would just let you guys chime in on that. But I think we all know what Syb's opinion is of Take-Two, but I'm more than happy to hear him rant against them again.
He's not alone in that. They're a terrible company in dealing with content creators and dealing with just people who actually contribute to the popularity of their games.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, if you think about it, someone creates a VR mod for your game and someone's like, oh, that'd be cool to try that game in VR. Well, guess what? You got to buy the game first. Because now, I don't know what the actual legal issue is. If they're filing copyright, that implies that he's trying to distribute something that is owned by them in terms of the intellectual property.
No. Yeah, exactly. Like you
But
have to buy their game.
It doesn't sound like that's the case. Now, no legal advice here. I'm not a lawyer, but if it's illegal to make a mod for a game, it shouldn't be. And if it's illegal to, like, if it's a copyright violation to make a mod for a game, that should not be the case either, in my opinion. But because you're not applying, like, as long as if you're, say, distributing a standalone mod, if you're like taking a version of their game and changing it and then distributing that whole thing, sure, that's clear copyright violation. If you're just saying, hey, here's this add-on thing that changes some of the code and adds this thing so that you can play it in VR now, that shouldn't be a copyright violation. Plus, that just makes their game more See, Bethesda figured this out a long time ago. Bethesda, selling us horse armor, at least figured out that mods are good. I mean, would people still be playing Skyrim if not for the mods? Absolutely not.
Hell no.
Like, you'd have a handful of people here and there. That game is still alive, and the popularity of that company is still alive because of the mods.
I think
still, even if they were against it, that shouldn't be illegal in any way, shape, or form. As long as you're not distributing some intellectual property that is actually owned by the company.
Yeah, which is
That's my opinion on it.
Side?
This is a company who they do not care about you. They do not care about the things that you care about. They have a handful of developers still at their studios, and I mean obviously more than just a handful, that do care about the products, that do care about the story. But the company, the corporation, has long since done away with thinking about what the actual players want in terms of like satisfaction. What they're now paying attention to more than anything is how can they get as much money from the users as possible, and they don't give a flying flip about your satisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
When was the last time they did a satisfaction survey? Like
pre-GTA 5?
Give it to some companies. Even the bad ones, they still have a habit of like putting out a survey every couple of months to try and get some understanding of where their players' thoughts are at. But this company very rarely seems to care because they have players and users who are so motivated and so in love with their games that they're like, I want to make something about this game better for free.
Mm-hmm.
And they show up with in some cases a team of lawyers, and in other cases occasionally a couple of thugs, allegedly, and sometimes those thugs go to their relatives, their wife or their fiance, allegedly, sometimes to that person's parents, allegedly. And it's gross. It's disgusting because in the end, they're not actually growing their business. They keep closing it off to people. I remember like over a decade ago buying one of their games and being like, I'm so excited to play this. Now me and a lot of people I know personally are like, never touching their products with a 10-foot pole again. Ever. These people are vile.
Yeah.
Well, and it's not even worth the risk as content creators.
All of those cases, if they just let people do what they were doing, it would have just helped their community to grow. It wasn't piracy. It wasn't controlling. It wasn't usurping anything. It was just growing their community. And they said, you know what? We're going to treat you like a criminal because we got apparently nothing better to do with our time, allegedly.
I mean, yeah, pretty much. It's, I think I have a theory as to why they did this to this particular guy. And it has to do with the definitive edition of the original GTA trilogy that came out last November. As we all know, that was a debacle. And we remember one of the aspects of that debacle was the fact that they took out the original. They made it difficult, if not impossible, to get the original versions of those games on PSN Xbox Store and Steam and all the other places, so that you would have to buy the definitive edition, right? Although as fans, like I'm a huge fan of the original trilogy, I and a whole bunch of other fans will say that the work that modders did to update the look of those old games is far superior to anything that Grove Street Games did. Those are the guys that made the definitive edition. But I don't think Take-Two or Rockstar wants people to know about that, because they want to make sure that they can do it all in studio and have all the profits go directly to them and do it half-assed, and then just say, F you, give me money, and they're going to get money for it instead. I think, like, what was the sales for the definitive edition? I'm going to check that in a second and let you guys know. But I think it's sort of similar here with the VR stuff. It's like, well, we don't want you doing it and doing a good job of it. We want to eventually sell VR mods later on, even though they'll probably end up with a whole bunch of bugs and probably won't be fully operational for a couple of years afterwards, because why should we put in any effort when we're making tons and tons of money off the shark cards from GTA 5? Yeah, anyways, at least we probably won't have to worry about the possibility of future remasters or remakes, because apparently the definitive edition was so bad that it completely negated any plans that Rockstar and Take-Two had for reportedly GTA 4 and Red Dead Redemption 1 remakes. So this is the second part of the story. According to Tez2 on Twitter, and there's also a second source which I'll get to in a second. Tez2, he does reporting on a whole bunch of Rockstar games. He said on Twitter that the reaction to the definitive edition was so bad that Rockstar has decided to shelve any plans that they had for GTA 4 and RDR1 remakes in favor of just putting all hands on deck for GTA 6. And then this was corroborated by Kotaku, I think the same day, saying, yeah, we heard the same thing. There seems to be some legitimate truth to this. So, I mean, I don't know. Like, it seems like Rockstar, they're definitely not the developer that they used to be, especially now that I think Leslie Benzies and one of the Housers isn't there anymore. And those were the guys that I think were instrumental in making all the Rockstar games up until now so brilliant. Yeah, maybe I suppose by having all hands on deck for GTA 6, they can pull a miracle out of their asses now that, you know, the majority of their talent is gone. But it's kind of disappointing, because I really, you know what I don't understand? Sorry, I know I'm going on long and I'm going to get your guys' opinions on this in a second, but I don't understand why it would be so difficult to make a Red Dead Redemption 1 remake. You have the map there from Red Dead Redemption 2. Just put in all the assets, like you have the full map there. Just put in a couple buildings, you know, the ones that are there 15 years later than they are in Red Dead Redemption 2, where I think it's 15 years in the past. But in all the missions, it shouldn't take you that long. It shouldn't take you like 5 or 6 years like Red Dead Redemption 2 and GTA 5 did, maybe like 2 or 3. And you have the money to do it, so why not? But anyways, Ash, your reaction to this. Just take it away.
Well, as I said, I think it's they've messed up in a lot of ways, and the remakes were a debacle. The way it's not worth it as a content creator to even cover their games because of the risky situation that puts us in. You say something or cover them in a way they don't like, and they'll abuse the copyright system to take you down, is my non-suable opinion of what would happen based on previous behavior. I mean, we saw them completely take down another YouTuber's channel based, that we knew and worked with personally.
Yeah.
Talked to him on Discord, just like we're talking to you right now. And, he was very popular a very popular creator doing coverage of one of their upcoming games. Was upcoming at that time. It's out now. And they destroyed him. They destroyed his channel. They destroyed his through abusing the YouTube copyright system. And so, yeah, we just don't touch their games because of that.
I'm not going to touch GTA 6 when it comes out just because of all this crap. And it's a shame because GTA 5 and Red Dead Redemption 2, they're in my top 20 games of all time. And it's the developers that made the games that way. It's not Take-Two, but it's just so egregious that I don't know.
Yeah.
Side.
Well, and that's the sad part about when we talk about these companies. There are lots of good developers. There are lots of developers who care about the games. They care about the people playing the games. They got into it just because they wanted to make a good product, because they wanted to, create art, this art form that is known as video gaming. They have a passion for what they do, whether it's coding or the art, the actual, visual art or design or, writing. They love doing this stuff. And, but then you get, the people at the top of the corporate ladder making these terrible calls. And, we see it everywhere right now. We're seeing it with Blizzard. We see it with EA. We see it with Ubisoft. We see it with, we saw it with Bethesda under ZeniMax for a long, long time. And we're hoping that that's changing now with them under Microsoft instead.
Right. Fingers crossed.
But we'll have to wait and see on that. We've been doing lots of coverage of Starfield, or, sort of anticipatory coverage of Starfield, hoping that things are going to get better. But actually this transitions into something I wanted to say, because you had said it, you said earlier in the show here that, there's not a lot of good stories, but I think there's a very positive opportunity right now for indie developers. Yeah. Most of the fun that I've been having with the games lately, in gaming, has not been the AAA games. It's been the indie games and the some of the more games from bigger studios that are not at that AAA level. I installed and started playing The Outer Worlds again. I was we were doing coverage of Starfield, and I was like, man, I want to play a space game now. And so I downloaded and started playing The Outer Worlds and was having a blast with it. So
good.
There are lots of great games out there from smaller developers. They don't get as much exposure, which is unfortunate. So when we try to help amplify the really good ones, but if you do some digging, sometimes it takes a little extra work to dig through the library of stuff out there and find the best ones. But there's some really good stuff out there, and you can go also to publishers like Devolver, or to, I always say this wrong, Annapurna. You can go to those types of publishers that publish indie games. They often put out some really good stuff as well.
And speaking of Annapurna, I think they're the ones behind Stray, which is coming out this month. And I'm really curious.
I was going to talk about that as well.
Looking forward to it.
It is now the top wish-listed game on Steam currently, and it just beat out The Day Before, which is an open-world zombie survival game that is upcoming. I'd never even heard of it, honestly, which is weird.
A cat. But, it just shows you the power of cute cats. And
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's coming out in just over. It's coming out on the 19th, so a week and a little bit. Yeah,
maybe my girlfriend and I will play that.
Stray. I'm looking forward to that.
Stray.
And that's the game for. If anyone's not sure what we're talking about, your protagonist is a cat in a futuristic cyberpunkish city that's populated by robots. Where did all the people go? I don't know. I haven't played the game yet. We'll find out.
Yeah, maybe it'll be like the cat version of Inside. We're sort of, we might have to go through the last few stories pretty quickly, but Side, did you have anything you wanted to say to the whole remake thing?
No,
just Take-Two sucks. Yes, we've gone over it so many times in the past. You guys get the point. Hopefully,
I hope that a gigantic thing just comes and does stuff and yeah, and then they get like stuff, and yeah, it's all good.
Okay,
all passively, not
It made no sense, but I see why you went ultra vague there.
Yeah, he had to censor. Very wise. Yeah, hopefully when GTA 5 comes out in 10 years, they'll figure
so
it
their
out.
GTA remakes were just like they repackaged the mobile versions of the games. I mean, what did they think that people weren't going to figure that out? I mean,
people.
This is the internet. Are you still living in the 80s and 90s when you could get away with crap like that?
I mean, people are still buying Madden every year. All right. Speaking of Madden, you like that one? There's this. I don't really want to spend too much time on this because we all know that Twitter is digital cancer. But I'll mention it. EA said something really stupid or really brilliant. I don't know what the deal is like anymore. They said that. What was the tweet again, Ash? Do you want to read it?
Yeah. So they decided they were gonna do some dank memeing, the dankest of memes. And so they put out this tweet. They're a 10, but they only like playing single-player games. Which I guess this is some kind of a joke about, talking about somebody who's like, seems perfect, except they have some superficial flaw that makes them ineligible to you or something. I'm guessing. So this is some kind of to my understanding, this is some kind of a Twitter meme format, which I don't spend a lot of time on Twitter, so.
She's a 10, but she listens to Limp Bizkit.
Something like that, yeah, stuff like that. So,
she's a 10, but she's a sports gamer. That would have been more appropriate.
Yeah, she's a 10, but she plays Madden. So EA puts out they're a 10, but they only like playing single player games. Which, I mean, they were attempting to make a joke, maybe even a self-deprecating joke a bit. I don't know. It's hard to know what was going through the person's head that put out that tweet. But now, I would have just rolled my eyes and scrolled on. But they, it garnered a lot of backlash, and
tone deafness.
You had Jacksepticeye saying they're a 10, but they thought this tweet was a good idea. Annapurna Interactive, the company we just talked about, that I would always say wrong. They said should have kept this in the drafts. So, some fairly high-profile
and the guy
responding to this
wasn't the leader of Respawn, which operates under EA. Didn't he tweeted that like a facepalm emoji? That was brilliant. I love.
Well, I know.
Yeah.
Actually, here's the funny part, though, and this is why I wanted to talk about this: that they actually had an internal meeting where they wanted to turn this into a marketing thing and have like their internal studios. To basically ridicule the tweet and just turn it into this thing, trying to spin it into a positive and like springboard off that into talking about into marketing some of EA's single player games. But this fell apart because obviously the smart people in the company were like, that's a dumb idea. You want us to all go on Twitter and start like ridiculing a tweet from head office? Okay. Yeah, no, that's really bad. Let's not do this. Some EA employees pointed out that the roasting EA strategy. So yeah, like EA was like had this call to action, and they wanted the social media managers of their various studios to actually ridicule EA. So EA's companies ridiculing the umbrella EA over this tweet, and they wanted to turn this into a marketing thing.
So let me get this straight. Okay. EA,
if you can understand that, Max, I'll be impressed.
Yeah, so
I sure don't.
So what you're saying is EA, the most hated gaming company on the planet, somehow more hated than Activision Blizzard, Konami, Ubisoft. They thought that a good marketing strategy would get people to hate them even more?
Yeah, I guess.
It's a bold move, Cotton. We'll see how it works out. I guess.
Well, so some of their employees pointed out to them that this roast EA strategy would feed into the big bad EA narrative, which is that even their studios and franchises don't like them, and that's the, so that is the perception that a lot of,
Here's a better idea. Why don't you make good games, for Christ's sake? Do more of what Respawn... Well, more like Jedi. Not so much the Apex. Like maybe a little bit of Apex, because I know there's some people that really enjoy it. I'm talking more like Jedi Fallen Order, more Rogue Squadrons, that sort of stuff. More from... What's his name? The guy who did It Takes Two. I want more of that. Please. Just don't worry about the marketing later.
You know what I want from EA and BioWare? I want them to put out a Pazaak card simulation game. Like, you can just have it so that I can literally play Pazaak with a bunch of like my friends over the phone, or make it this whole thing where there's a story and you're some, you're just some nobody who's like, trying to play Pazaak to like free your dad from a crime lord. And there's like Jedi stuff and story and other things and cool history and lore that you can get. You could do that, and they would probably make more money off of that than most of their other projects that they've done recently, as far as like the ones that have kind of like face planted. If you really wanted a good multiplayer game, there's an idea for you. Go for that. Just try it. Oh, you're not going to? You've never touched it despite its massive popularity? EA, you're garbage. Ugh.
Yeah. So EA just continuing to mess up like what else is new, but people will continue to support their the sports games, Madden, FIFA. That's how they make all their money. And then every once in a while, maybe what's his name, Joseph, the guy behind It Takes Two, brother Tale Two Sons. He'll make a great game. Respawn will make a great game, and then things will just continue on as normal. All right, a couple more stories. PlayStation Store. So I'll take the lead on this one. It seems like, well, we remember, I think it was in August of last year that PlayStation completely stopped selling any movies on their service because they realized that they had no way to compete with all the other streaming services, so they just took them off. But they did say that those who had purchased movies on their platform, they would still be able to retain them. Well, it seems like that's not going to be true pretty soon for those living in Austria and Germany. Now, I don't know if there's some like form of legislation that's in place that will allow them to like either force Sony to take the rights to the purchased content and move it over to another platform, or that they can get a refund. I would hope that's the case. Otherwise, I don't know, maybe somebody would attempt to sue. Either way, it's a really crappy situation. Syb, Ash, do you see like it working out in that regard where they'll be able to retain rights to their purchased content? Or do you think that they'll just hope people will ignore it and it'll all go away?
Good question. I also wonder if this was PlayStation's call or not.
Yeah.
Because they say it's due to evolving licensing agreements.
Sorry to interrupt you, dude. I should also be a little bit more specific. It's strictly for movies that are from Studio Canal.
Studio Canal, yeah.
Right. Yeah. My bad. So sorry, continue.
But that includes things like, so Apocalypse Now, John Wick, Saw, The Hunger Games, Saw, of course, Syb's favorite movie series that's ever existed in the world.
He's lying about
he
that.
Said sarcastically. You should hear him rant about Saw.
Garbage.
But
what kind of person comes up with A, that storyline, B, the ludicrous like mental gymnastics you have to get in order to like get them into that kind of scenario type stuff. And then who's that insane where it's like, oh, you've not been happy with your life, therefore I'm going to make you suffer. Yeah,
okay.
It's like, all right, now that you're done with that person, start on the other 8 billion. Good Lord.
Yeah, Jigsaw totally never killed anybody. What are you talking about? Yeah.
Anyway, but for people who bought those movies or anything else through Studio Canal, now it doesn't note anything in here about these movies just no longer being available in Germany or Austria. So, yeah, that I'd be curious to know more details about why this is happening. Is it because Studio Canal just said, "Hey, we've signed an exclusive deal with some other company to distribute these movies in Germany and Austria, so you've got to shut that down." Obviously, like, there's more to it than just, like, it's not just PlayStation saying, hey, no more movies.
Yeah, screw the Germans.
It's these specific movies in these specific countries, which tells me that it's not just PlayStation making some sort of call. Now, it could also be that Studio Canal said, hey, you've got to pay us more money. And they said, well, no, screw that. Who knows, right? Don't know a lot of the details on this, but it does highlight the problem with digital purchases of movies.
Yeah.
Digital purchases of anything is going to start to become a problem. Why I've never digitally purchased a movie on any of these. You know, there's been the option to do that with like through the cable provider and through Amazon and through this and that, and like, yeah, no, because one day that's not going to be there. What's even the point? You know, right. Am I going to assume that your service is still going to be there in 10 years? No. Now I do digitally purchase games all the time. And that, I mean, I'm fully aware that that could eventually become the same problem. But usually, most of the time, like 95% of games, I play them once. Maybe I play them a few more times to like get the achievements, whatever. But then I move on to other games, right?
Right.
Movie is something like if you want to own a movie, that implies that you want to be able to watch it whenever you want.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that digitally purchasing a movie is a good way to accomplish that, because it just might not be there.
Yeah,
in the future.
That's definitely the benefit of physical media. And I totally agree with you about the digital stuff. I mean, I have bought movies digitally, but I only rent them. That way I don't have to worry. Like, I watch it once and I'm good.
Same with us. Yeah, like I've done that.
Yeah.
So it's like $4.99, $5.99 to rent this movie, or you can own it for like $14.99 and watch it whatever you want. Well, it's like,
get off your ass and go to Best Buy.
What's the Yeah, well, sure. If you
want it,
I don't have a. Actually, I do have a Blu-ray player, but I don't know if it works.
Right.
But I mean, there's enough content on. That's the thing. Like I own Blu-rays that I never watch of some of my favorite movies, or what I thought were my favorite movies, and now I'm just like, why did I buy that? Right. I mean, so I'm not that type of person that needs to persistently own that, but if you are, then I would say get some sort of physical version of it that's not going to deteriorate. So obviously not VHS. Not that that's really an option anymore, but have the disc, and then as long as you can get your hands on the player, you can watch the movie.
Hopefully the people in Austria, and I keep almost saying Austria-Hungary. That doesn't exist anymore. Austria and Germany will be able to have their legislators work this out. Hopefully there's already some legislation in place that will protect their digital goods. If not, we will definitely keep updating on the story and making sure that justice is done properly. Hopefully it doesn't get too extreme in a point. All right, Syb, I'm going to cede the floor to you for this last thing. What's been going on with Baldur's Gate 3?
So they just had their big number 8 patch out. They have released the Bard and the Gnome. So you can play now as a Bard, and you can also play as a Gnome.
Can we do a running of the Gnomes?
Different kind of Gnomes. I mean, like, D&D Gnomes are far different and superior than, say, World of Warcraft Gnomes, where that meme was popularized. So yeah, I don't think so. But they're interesting, and they have massively improved their UI, their tooltips, their interactions. They've all gotten, honestly, a lot better. And this was better than the last time when we saw it, where we're like, wow, look at that work that they've done on those tooltips. That's amazing. And then they went and did it again, but it improved it even better this time. So now it looks really sharp, and it loads a little faster too. Then they've done things like adding to certain large fights where you're fighting against like 50 or 60, not 50 or 60. You're fighting against like 10 to 20, maybe 30 enemies. They've now made it so that they move all like at once, essentially. So it's
when you have a bunch of enemy turns in succession, they actually all. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, they call it the swarm behavior, and so they actually go out and do things and react to things very quickly. And so yeah, that speeds up larger, long fights that used to take like an hour or two. That's now like you're getting your turn now, you end your turn, a few seconds later, it's your turn again. So that's cool. Super impressed with that. Yeah. So I'm really just generally I'm really excited for this. I think that overall, they're improving things so quickly. They talked a fair amount on and off, hinting at like how Act 2 and Act 3 is going, and how they've been designing that stuff, really improving it. It does actually sound as if we're only getting 3 acts, which is a little weird. I may have misunderstood that, but I want to just pop that out. And then we've got just again metric ton of bug fixes, like. And again, they were talking. So they're talking about how their process. They're getting closer and closer to the final versions of certain things. And once they get to this final version, they put it into a gold box. They wrap it up and say, we're not touching this feature anymore. It is where we want it for launch. We're not going to mess with it anymore because messing with it might create some destabilizing bugs down the road. And then as soon as they get the vast majority of their stuff into those gold boxes, then they switch from developing, changing things and improving things to just straight up bug fixing and improving things, not in a design philosophy, but in a player playing the game philosophy, where it's like, all right, let's make this as the smoothest, best example or like best process that we can. They've upgraded so many of their animations. They've got other bug fixes that show that they're really getting to the root of some of the problems that were happening before. And again, the faster and the better they can make this game run in the future means that the more likely you're going to be able to use it to do amazing tabletop experiences in a digital world, with playing as a GM with real players. This is something that I've been looking forward to for a really long time. I think overall, Baldur's Gate is one of the most exciting products that are out there right now. Definitely encourage everybody to wish list it. You don't have to pre-order it. If you pre-order it, you get to play it right now. You get to play it today. They've only got about 1 to 2 more. I would really stress that. I think they have 1 to 2 more patches to go. Major patches. I think they're going to get 1 more patch out, probably in the mid to like late fall, maybe like November-ish. That would make a lot of sense to me. A little bit before that still makes sense to me. Halloween makes sense to me. And then kind of going from there to their release. And I'm so excited for the release. And I don't encourage anybody to like play it like crazy right now, because play it to test things, play it to test character classes, play it to test stuff that you want to do. And then from there, that's where you can kind of tweak things and maneuver things out. And yeah, so we'll see what that's like down the road. Really, honestly, super excited about this right now. I think this is like, this is so good, right? This is literally so good. And it's about time that we got something where you see them fixing the product as they're going along. You see them getting those bug fixes out. When they put out one of these major patches, you always get a quick fix, like about a couple of days later, where they fix other like issues that cropped up. But those have been getting less and less and less, and the game has been getting smoother and smoother and smoother. So I'm super psyched for this.
Yeah, you've been talking about it for a long time. Unfortunately, I still have yet to be able to say anything substantial towards it. I do know that we're going to play it at some point, maybe when there's a full release. Ash, did you have anything you wanted to add to that before we concluded?
Really exceptional game. Wish I'd been able to put more time into it. People in our community are often asking me to play more of it and continue my Evil Dumb playthrough, which was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, just not enough minutes, like we were talking about earlier. But it's a truly exceptional game that lives up to its predecessors, and I look forward to the full release.
Excellent. Well, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully that's some good news to cleanse your palate of all that crap that we talked about earlier on in the episode. Thank you so much for joining us, by the way, for this extended. I think this might end up being the longest episode that we ever did, but it was a good one. Thanks for joining us. Make sure you hit that like button, because when you do that, it tells the YouTube algorithm that not only this episode of the Maximum News Show is worth watching, but all the other shows on the Triple S podcast channel as well. So yeah, do that. Make sure you leave a comment if you have any of the thoughts, Any thoughts, it's getting late, on the subjects that we talked about today. I want to thank Syb and Ash for joining me for this particular episode. Guys, you want to tell them about the other channel real quick? I guess, Syb, you can do that.
Yeah, just check us out at the Triple S League on the main channel, and we're on Twitter and a couple other places causing havoc and making statements and trolling people every once in a while. So if you enjoy that kind of stuff, join in. We also do like actual game stuff, but on Twitter I mostly I like poke fun, make fun of stupid hypocrisies, and
you can tell the tweets that you can tell the tweets that Syb writes versus the ones that I write. I like talk about, hey, this is what I think about this game. Syb is like, these people are idiots. Sorry,
it's like Jekyll and Hyde.
No, that's a fair representation.
People that made this game are morons.
And I'm always, trying to maintain stability. Ash, did we miss anything there? Anything else you want to plug?
No, just the main Triple S League channel is lots of game guides, reviews, other things like that. So I won't belabor it. Cool. Subscribe here, subscribe over there, subscribe to Max on the Max Derrat channel.
Yes, I'll put links to my channel and all my social media and the Triple S stuff in the description box below. Thanks, guys, and until we do this again next week, hopefully when there's better news, I want to remind you, as always and as per usual, stay yellow.
Goodbye.